It's no secret that the stock market is currently overvalued, but what should we as investors do about it? Have a look at this chart, which is tracking a metric called the Shiller PE. This metric was created by the American economist Robert Shiller, who subsequently was awarded a Nobel Prize for his work on understanding market inefficiencies, bubbles, and the importance of investor psychology in driving economic outcomes. The measure is a reasonably simple one. It's also called a cyclically adjusted PE ratio. What it does is it compares the average inflation-adjusted earnings of the S&P 500 over the last 10 years with the price of the S&P 500. Long story short, it's a long-term conservative price-to-earnings ratio for the S&P 500. It means when stock prices are high but the earnings have been low, the Shiller PE rises, and when the prices fall or the earnings rise over time, the Shiller PE comes down. So it tells us what the average investor is willing to pay for the S&P 500. For example, in August 1982, the average investor was willing to fork out 6.64 times the earnings of the S&P 500 as a share price, whereas at the start of 1996, that accepted price had rocketed up to 26 times earnings.
The market since World War II has sold between 10 times earnings and 20 times earnings. If you look at the Dow Jones or the S&P 500, if you add up all the companies and take the earnings, you say there's a relationship. And it follows. McDonald's earnings have been terrific the last 30 years, and the stock's been terrific. There's a direct relationship. So the earnings of the S&P 500 have been between this range of 10 and 20. We were just about to go over the 20, which is the high end of the PE range. There wasn't a lot of room left on the PE
of 20
side.
is at the top of how high it should ever be.
Right. It's been over there only a few times ever over 20.
So as Peter says, the market will typically stay within these Shiller PE bounds of 10 to 20. Well, guess what? Today, the story is much, much different. Currently, the Shiller PE sits at a whopping 35. It's only been this high around 3 other times in history, 2021, 1999, and 1929. So correlation does not equal causation, but the market is pretty hot. So what do we do? Now, I recently made a video on what passive investors should do, and we turned to the father of passive investing, Jack Bogle, to steer us in the right direction. But what do we as value investors do? Well, why not turn to one of the best who ever did it, that being Peter Lynch, to guide us. And in Peter's opinion, there is no easy way out of our predicament, but there are a series of steps you can take to make sure you're making great investments, remembering there's a difference between finding a great company and a great investment. And a big part of doing it well is simply turning over more stones.
Some people know a lot about this